Trump recently made a speech alongside Pete Hegseth, and they were talking about the Iran war, of course. And Trump was implicating that this idea to attack Iran was Hegseth's idea. He enthusiastically said that Iran was a source of terrorism for over 40 years, and that Hegseth was on board and was really pushing for the idea. And in other words, what Trump is doing is he's setting the table, so to speak, to blame Hegseth for this epic, you know what. And I don't think that's a good idea. One of the problem with DC is that there's a lack of accountability. And you can't have accountability without honesty and rationality. In other words, you got to have a sense of reality. You have to say, well, this is exactly what's happening. You apply your reasoning faculty to it, and you can see that this whole thing was a disaster. This was a combination of, the boomer attitude of the institutions are invincible, but we're going to use and abuse them because we don't respect the very institutions that we really depend on. And the second thing is that you have such a deep Israeli influence in DC. You're talking about AIPAC, you're talking about their other lobby. And by the way, no foreign country should be lobbying another country. We shouldn't have lobbyists from Qatar or from Turkey, or we shouldn't have the Chinese influence, et cetera, et cetera. But Israel, we could see the result of this. We just got sucked into their war, in part because of the massive amount of influence that they have. And I've already talked about that ad nauseum. But Iran has been a source of terrorism. You look at the Shia militias in Iraq, you're talking about Hezbollah, you're talking about Hamas, which is another proxy of Iran, yes. And it's absolutely a problem, especially for Israel. It's a big problem for Israel. But, this plan of, well, we'll just bomb them and they'll back off. We'll make a deal. We'll intimidate them with shock and awe. That was a really bad idea, and a lot of people foresaw this. Everything that's going on right now has been foreseen. We know that Iran was going to close the straits if they are in a serious conflict. We know that they had a lot of rockets and drones, but none of that was prepared for. They made a huge gamble, and it didn't pay off. Now we're in a pickle, and Trump is trying to shift the blame onto Hegseth, which is not responsible. That does not inspire anyone's confidence, certainly not any world leader's confidence. At this point, given the circumstances, you have two options. You can either land, you have to institute a draft, land hundreds of thousands of forces, which I don't think that's a good idea. Or you can find a diplomatic way out of this. Use a country like India that's a relatively neutral country, like Prime Minister Modi. They have their own agenda, but they're relatively neutral. And try to have talks, bring China and Russia and all the other powers together, and use this as an opportunity to get the United States out of NATO, get the United States out of the Middle East, and secure a deal. Use that as leverage while we still have that leverage before it's too late. So it's a bad situation, but sometimes opportunities are disguised as bad situations.